What is something you might be too good at doing? What do you think you're doing too well? Write in the comments. Have fun watching. Story 1. Figuring out how things can go wrong. On the one hand, I have this skill due to anxiety and depression. On the other hand, it makes me a great QA tester. You should have seen my evil grin when a manager of mine asked for everything you can think of that could go wrong before a product launch. I had a 2-page list in an hour, and 3 of my predictions ended up happening XD. Back to the downsides though, I can't turn it off. Even when those anxious thoughts aren't dominating my attention, always having pessimistic thoughts pop up often drains my enthusiasm. Story 2. Remembering names and bits of info about them. I've definitely had awkward encounters when I bump into folks from classes I took 10 years ago and call out to them by name and ask them if they ended up getting a graduate degree in library sciences like they had planned. I then went out of my way to explain to this guy that I wasn't obsessed with him. Sorry, Jackson. I just have a banging memory. Story 3. Remembering stuff. I remember a lot of things that people told me or that I saw, even if it was a very long time ago. I remember even very trivial things, even if said by people who I don't know very well, like the friend of a friend at one birthday party pack in 2015. It's just how I am. I remember stuff. I sometimes downplay it because I fear people who don't know me too well might find it creepy, as if I kept tabs on them or something. But I just remember a lot of random shit, and I can associate it pretty easily with the right person or the moment of my life when it happened. It comes in handy for sure, but I sometimes wonder why I remember so much stuff about people I barely know, or about things that will never affect me again. To be clear, I don't remember everything, but I do remember a lot of stuff that other people forget, and sometimes my loved ones are amazed at the stuff I remind them of. The real negative side about my memory is that I also have vivid recollections of a lot of bad stuff that has happened to me. I don't repress any detail about anything, and I sometimes get internally annoyed because people I've shared hard times with forgot whole details that still haunt me personally. Edit, details and phrasing. Story 4. Thinking critically. I've never had to seriously study beyond practicing math, chemistry problems, and looking up advice on how to write papers while working on them, because I am really good at improvising and reading between the lines. The plus side is that I don't need to stress out as much when preparing for tests and assignments. The downside is that this doesn't help much with long-term understanding of certain concepts. In graduate school, my first goal is to learn and practice, but in a pinch, I can knock out an awesome paper or ace a test by reading between the lines and thinking outside the box. Story 5. Getting in my own way. Been a few years now, I've been heavily learning to let myself be. When I'm working, I'm working. When I'm relaxing, I'm relaxing. I don't think about other stuff when I'm feeling good. But of course, life is so unpredictable, and you're going to go through seasons of heaviness where it will feel like you're having to relearn lessons you already knew. But we all in this process, and most of us just want to do right. Story 6. Drinking. So much so that I have received doctor's orders that I have to temporarily stop as I may have an enlarged heart. Seeing cardiologist next month. I'm not an everyday drinker, but when I do drink, there is no limit how much I can consume, and you might not even know I'm drunk. I broke down a day out drinking with the boys one day, and my doctor, who has been my physician since I was a teenager, thought I was lying or exaggerating. My family and I have owned bars all my life, so I guess that is an occupational hazard. Also, this goes for any liquid. I drink outrageous amount of anything. I'm normalish sized, 6'2". Story 7. Masking, hiding emotions. I've always had anxiety and struggle with not wanting to be an inconvenience, burden to others, and I also work in the mental health field. Both of these things make it hard for others to fully connect with me, because I could be going through something very difficult and not show any signs in my behavior, affect, mood, etc. It's more than just slapping a smile on my face to fool people. It's more like I, sometimes subconsciously, unintentionally, immediately compartmentalize when I'm with people and detach from my internal experiences in order to be present for the other person. Friends have told me they wish they'd known times I was struggling with something so they could support me, but they just never had a clue I have to put myself aside for work, so I just naturally do it in other contexts as well. Story 8. Making no sound as I walk. Like, people usually don't hear me walking behind them because I'm just too silent while walking. And spatial awareness. I only need to go to a place once to remember where it is, how to get there, what the best routes. Also, I remember places I only passed by at once, like 6 years ago, like I was there yesterday or something. Great skill to have when dealing with maps on a daily basis. Story 9. Masking. I've had more than a few health professionals, doctors, nurses, psychiatrists, psychologists, tell me that I can't possibly be depressed, anxious, autistic, or bipolar because I seem very put together, or I'm very articulate, or in touch with my emotions. Sure, yes, absolutely. But those things don't negate the fact that I want to kill myself sometimes because I get anxious and overstimulated and dysregulated super easily. I've just had decades of practice when it comes to hiding these things. Couldn't really get a job or hold a relationship if I'm not masking, but now it's so hard to unmask. Medical professionals don't believe me, lol. It's gotten better and I'm getting help now, but I had to have a serious crisis to get here. Frustrating. Story 10. Seeing the Matrix. What I mean is, I can usually see right through the propaganda that is shoved in our faces everywhere now. It's in our TV shows, movies, video games, news articles, social media, everywhere. I told several people that Ukraine had no chance of winning a prolonged conflict against Russia years ago. Pointed out that the articles, news stories, and Reddit cheerleading is wealthy people manufacturing consent for another giant military expenditure while our nation continues to suffer from a lack of investment. You would have thought I shot some people's mothers from the reactions I got back then. Same with the political system, no. No matter how many times you want to make me believe it, we do not have a democracy in the USA, and probably haven't since the 1970s. Voting for anyone is a waste of time. The wealthy will dictate policy regardless of who is in power. That means women will lose their rights because that is what the wealthy want. That means more war and no regulation on the financial sector. They will end up stealing all of our retirements, and there isn't shit you can do about it. Trump won't go to prison, and there is a good chance he wins again. I'm just tired, sad, and angry most of the time. I wish I could believe all the lies these scumbags constantly spew like many people do, but I can't make myself. Story 11. I'm great at judging people. I hate this side of me, I swear. I judge people for language, spelling, usage, punctuation, etc. I judge people by the way they walk, talk, drive, you name it. I am a flawed 64-year-old woman. Who am I to judge? Why do I do this? I'm better the older I get. My 20s, 30s, and 40s were my worst judgment days. How do I stop this horrific behavior? I could be doing so many other productive things instead. Story 12. Writing notes and cards. I've never bought a greeting card in my entire life, lol. People have routinely told me I should work for Hallmark. I love doing handwritten fonts with sparkly gel pens and composing thoughtful poems about the recipient. I leave little notes for my boyfriend scattered around the apartment for him to find multiple times a day. I send people random cards for no reason. I carry around a little graph paper notebook with me at all times so I can constantly draw little pictures and hand them to strangers who need to pick me up. I am probably personally responsible for several massive deforestation events. It's a problem. Story 13. Other people's jobs, it seems. I'm an IT tech, and I'm just really good in general at troubleshooting, figuring things out, fixing stuff, etc. Turns out when you're competent and know how to do stuff, everyone, including other IT co-workers, will just start asking you solve their problems and answer their questions. You tried for 15 minutes and it wasn't an easy fix? Just ask PDXB3 to do it. Need to know something but too lazy to Google it yourself? Just use PDXB3 as your personal Google, so you aren't burdened with having to learn something. On top of that, I've recently had some car trouble, and a mechanic had my vehicle for a week and a half and returned it to me unfixed, scratching his head. I personally hate working on cars, but again, I'm good at understanding and troubleshooting issues, so I even told him what I suspected the problem could be. I get the car back and look, and he never checked what I'd suggested, part of the wiring to the problematic sensor. I figured it out in 5 minutes, took it home and just fixed it myself in about an hour. I've dealt with so much professional incompetence that I just don't trust anyone to do anything anymore. If you want it done right, and all. Story 14. Working. I hate the job I have and company I work for now, but I show up early every day, leave late, and make sure things get done better than just the bare minimum. I'm worn out, though, and I know I'm not getting a raise I asked for. Despite holding this place together, I've looked for work elsewhere, but nothing pays what I'm making, which is why they aren't giving me a raise. I'm stuck until I finish college. Story 15. I grew up with a father who sheltered me to the max and was controlling and abusive. You know what that taught me at a very young age? How to hide things, blackmail, and be sneaky. I can find information on people within seconds, manipulate and use psychology I learned from personal experience. It's not something that is my proudest trait, as I used to use it in evil ways, but I have learned over the years how to use it for good and not abuse it. Story 16, doing nothing. I can sleep and play videos games all day, month, year long. Not only that, but I'm an Xbox gamer, and for those unaware, Xbox has something called achievement score. Meaningless F, I have 450K, and I have a lifelong goal to reach 1 million. That would mean I would have to pay $100 on games to reach 1 million. For no fucking reason at all. I've purchased games 5 times over, just for the achievements, on Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and the PC version, all to get the pointless achievements. I know there is an actual achievement hunters community out there, and I read an article on how this one really hot girl, unless info, went to rehab for achievement hunting. Story 17. Enduring pain. My pain tolerance kinda grew out of control growing up in an abusive household and not wanting to fight back because I didn't want to hurt my abuser. In high school, I would try torture methods, burning, branding, slow cuts, electricity, on myself to see how high I could go, eventually realizing I could just bear it all without even wincing, making a face. Got over that stuff eventually, but yeah. And yes, I do get some pretty bad injuries from time to time and not notice care because it just doesn't hurt very much. Story 18. Moving quickly. I'm about 6 feet tall with pretty long legs. All throughout high school, my walking was running to everyone else who was shorter than me. I've had to warn people that I've worked around in janitorial and maintenance that I have a tendency to disappear and reappear at random. I'll be standing beside them or in a room somewhere doing a task 1 minute. They'll turn to do something, look back, and I'll have completely vanished without a sound, only for them to find me like 5 minutes later on the opposite end of the building or property doing something else. I have genuinely scared people doing this. Story 19. Bluffing. Even as a kid, playing poker against me was dangerous. I would always win or almost close. Luck just gets you sometimes. I don't ever back down or feel intimidated. Was bullied a lot, so I learned that most of bullying is bluffing. Seeing if someone will just do what you want under minimal and/or ambiguous implication and/or suggestion of reprisal. My only tell was that I lick my teeth left-hand side if I got something good. Once I learned that, y'all want to play poker. Story 20, masking symptoms of more concerning behaviors. I was a pretty well-behaved kid, but as I grew up, I developed some problems and concerning tendencies and habits. Around the time I was 8, I had a pretty good sense of the fact that I'm fundamentally different from the rest of my family, seeing as I'm mixed and my family is white. I ended up hating being different and did anything I could to look like the rest of my family. I was 10 when COVID hit, and I developed really bad depression that managed to stick with me. Once I was 11, that depression came with bouts of mania that caused me to do some really stupid things that I probably wouldn't do if I was in my right mind. Eventually, that turned into a lack of remorse and sense of self-preservation that has made me completely unafraid of consequences my parents could give me if they caught me doing things that would be considered bad. No one knew about the manic and depressive episodes until I was 13 and taken to the psychologist to be evaluated. And even then, I've gotten so good at masking symptoms that my family still doesn't know when they happen, and they think I've just gotten better. I know that logically, this should be concerning to me, but as far as I'm concerned, if they're not jumping down my throat about things, I don't really care. Story 21. Becoming extremely good at anything, extraordinarily quickly. Seriously, anything. It took me 4 drawings ever to get good at drawing. It took me 10 tries to do an around the world when I have never touched a soccer ball in my life except for that instance. I did 4 years of high school in one, straight A's and B's. I hit bullseye 7x in a row after my first shot missed at my friend's backyard. I only didn't make more because I stopped. I became GC in Rocket League in under 500 hours. I can go on and on and on. It's low-key made me a little cocky with certain things, but can you blame me? I know it's a blessing, but damn it feels good. Story 22. Predicting the future. So often I have predicted things a week or 2 in advance, and bam, you turn on the TV or radio and they're saying almost word for word the things I said 2 weeks prior. I can also predict whether hyped products will succeed and other things, especially politics. My family thinks it's funny, though a little exasperating because it keeps happening over and over. What sucks is that often the thing I'm predicting aren't good positive things, but often bad things, and then they come true over and over again. I've gotten to the point where I stopped predicting things because it's almost like a jinx. Story 23. Doing the absolute bare minimum while making it seem like I'm excelling/overachieving. I've been doing this since like middle school, and it's been both helpful and harmful to me. On one hand, things that are necessary to do but are trivial, meaningless, are more easily accomplished without seeming incompetent. For example, I was really good at bullshitting essays while looking like I knew what I was talking about. I could skim red books really well and finish them in like 1/3 of the normal amount of time and still get the gist of them. And I can make projects that are easy seem really complicated, so people think I'm working hard when in reality I finished the project a week ago, haha. On the other hand, It's a poor habit that has also cost me a fair bit, since there are some things where I should have put in more effort, mostly to do with my college years. Even in college, I was really good at faking it till I made it. I never cheated, but I found ways to quickly memorize, at the cost of actual understanding, certain materials, particularly with math. This let me graduate magna cum laude, and as part of the National Honor Society in my chosen field, but I feel like I never actually learned what I should have learned. There may be a bit of imposter syndrome thrown into that feeling as well, but I still think what I mentioned also applies. Story 24. Calming animals. The amount of times throughout my life where I've had an owner basically tell me their pet is scared of or actively aggressive towards newcomers only for me to have nothing but a pleasant experience with them is truly outstanding. And I'm not just talking about strangers who said this to make me feel special. I'm talking about friends and family whose pet was well known for basically hating everyone but their owner. Yet for some reason, I'm always able to just kind of walk up, gain their trust, and make them comfortable with me in a matter of minutes. I never really even thought that it was that special. To me, it was just a sort of common sense of being able to understand the animal's body language and reacting positively, respecting their boundaries and letting them come to you. But everyone acts like this is such a weird talent for me to have. So I guess maybe there's more to it that I'm just not consciously even recognizing. Story 25. Reading people. Makes it extremely hard to make friends when you can see how inauthentic most people are. And then there's the people who get offended by your ability to suss out their motives. I do it so well, I only almost, feel psychic. It takes me about a week to a few months worth of interaction to get a read on someone, depending on how open they are, how emotive they are, etc. But once I do, I can predict their behavior and discern their thoughts with extremely good accuracy. I don't even try to do it. It just happens. Story 26. I've been told I have a perfect cognitive map. If I go somewhere once, no matter the mode of transportation, I can recreate every step without fail. Example, my family took an out-of-state vacation once when I was 6 years old. We ended up going back when I was 20 and was able to guide my family back to the cabin we stayed at and the exact routes we took to get there. Nobody remembered the address, so we couldn't GPS it, and we just wanted to see if again even though we weren't staying there. Another time when my grandma passed, we got stuck in a hospital that we didn't know about 3 hours from home. This was the second time being there, as we were there once before 6 years ago, when she had open heart. I was able to walk through every hallway and find the ICU super easily, meanwhile my parents didn't know where. Story 27. I can memorize an uncomfortable amount of personal info just from meeting someone once or twice. I'll remember family names, events, pets, friends, and anything else you happen to mention that's remotely interesting. People don't usually find it cool when you can recite basically every personal detail they've ever told you. Now I just usually play stupid. If people find out you can remember conversations word for word, they oftentimes just think you're creepy. Story 28. Getting people to trauma dump at me. I don't know what it is. I'm nowhere close to being a therapist. But the last relationship I had, she would trauma dump at least once a week. Then the last 2-3 people I've gone on more than one date with both ended up trauma dumping on date 3. I'm shit at words, so all I can think of to say is, damn, that's terrible. I'm sorry you went through that. Then they get mad at me for not having anything else to say about it. So with that third person, I decide to try the only other idea I have. Trauma dumping is a heavy topic, and it's been years since the events they're talking about. So let's try to make it a little bit lighter by making a small joke. Well, big surprise. That wasn't the right answer either. And those are just the dates. My friends do it. My coworkers do it. Random fucking people at Walmart will do it. I don't get it. Just go to fucking therapy, people. I'm not qualified for this shit. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.